Welcome to Weekend Crafting Adventures with Kim Wojtalowicz. Get ready to learn all about her latest craft project as she reveals experiences with the Cricut cutting machine. Follow along as she discusses her project's successes and fails, shares her inspiration, tips and tricks, and overall satisfaction rating for each project. Now, here's your host, Kim.
Hi, crafties. Welcome to Weekend Crafting Adventures. I'm Kim, and today I am going to be talking about my experience making some glow-in-the-dark t-shirts with the Cricut Maker. The inspiration behind this project, well, actually, there are two. The first thing is that there is a band called the String Cheese Incident that my husband and I have listened to for many years. In fact, before even we got married. And we actually started out going to their concerts. They would play these concerts in the summer in Steamboat Springs in Colorado. And they would actually be playing at the bottom of one of the ski hills. And so they would be set up at the bottom and it would be summertime. So you would go and actually just sit on the side of the hill or stand or dance and listen to String Cheese Incident play. And we fell in love with this band. And a couple of years ago, before the pandemic, we took our sons to one of the concerts. They were playing at this little amphitheater in Dillon outside. And we took our boys because we love live music and we wanted them to have this experience with us. And I think at the time, the boys were 12 and 13. So it was a while back. And we had one son that fell in love with the band and one son that didn't. So 1 out of 2, which isn't bad. And we have been going to these concerts when they play in Dillon at the amphitheater ever since. So the second inspiration is actually the Dillon Amphitheater. This venue is amazing. It is a tiny little town, and this venue is this outdoor amphitheater that holds probably maybe 5,000 people at the most, but it sits right on the edge of Lake Dillon. It's absolutely breathtaking. As the bands play, the sun goes down, and it's just one of the most beautiful places that you could ever, in my opinion, watch live music and enjoy a concert. So those two things were the inspiration behind these glow-in-the-dark heat transfer vinyl t-shirts that I was going to design on my Cricut design space. As I started to think about the design of the t-shirt and what I wanted to have on the t-shirt, I knew for sure that I wanted to try glow-in-the-dark vinyl. I have made t-shirts before. In fact, the first project I ever did that made me take my Cricut out of the box and use it was a t-shirt. And so I've had some experience making t-shirts with the Cricut, but I wanted to incorporate some glow in the dark vinyl, a couple of different colors, because I knew we'd be outside. And I thought it'd be really fun as the sun was going down and it got dark, that our t-shirts would be glowing. So I knew I wanted to use that. And then I began thinking about the actual design. I knew I wanted to incorporate a couple of things on this t-shirt. And I definitely wanted to represent the mountains and the venue that is just right there on the lake. The sun going down, that is something that's really cool that you get to watch the sun go down and the sky change into all different colors. Typically, there's some clouds in the sky in the afternoon and evening in Colorado. So I was going back and forth about that. And I wanted to use the one logo from the band and incorporate that as well. The other thing that I decided to do was to use some jellyfish. It is a big thing with this band. And so I thought it'd be fun somehow to have jellyfish on the t-shirt. And I wanted to make sure that I had the year and where it was. So I wanted to have Dillon Amphitheater 2022. So I started by getting on that design space, and I put up the actual t-shirt template, which is a really cool tool. It actually puts on your design space a front and back of a t-shirt, so that when you're laying out your design and figuring out how big you want the different elements to be and where you want them placed, the template actually is right there to help you. So that was really cool. I used that and I started messing around with different mountain scenes. And I actually found one that I had purchased on Etsy, an SVG file, and it was the outline of the mountains, a few different lines to represent some water for the lake, and a sun going down. And I actually thought what would be perfect is to put that String Cheese Incident logo inside of the mountains, kind of like the outline of the mountain was the outline of the amphitheater, and they were right there on stage in the middle. So that was the thinking behind the design. And actually planning the design came pretty quickly. I checked it out a few times with my son and my husband, just to see what they thought. And they liked it. And so I kept on going. I put on some jellyfish on the back of the t-shirt. When I first was planning it, I had put stars in the sky. I had jellyfish on the front with the mountain scene and the logo, and jellyfish on the back. But the more and more we kept looking at it and I checked in with them, it was getting a little bit busy with a lot of stuff. And so I did end up taking the stars off and just leaving the plain mountains, the sun going down. I put a cloud with a lightning bolt coming down towards the mountain scene with the logo of the band. And then on the back, I ended up putting Dillon Amphitheater 2022 with the jellyfish. I used 3 functions on the Cricut design space quite a bit during this project. I used the contour function, which takes an image and allows you to actually basically get rid of a piece of the image. So I had the mountains and the little lines for the water with the sun behind it, or the moon. It could be either one. And what I wanted to do is make sure when I was having Cricut cut out the vinyl, I wanted a different color for the sun than I wanted for the mountains. And so in order to do that, I used my contour function, and I pulled up the image. And when I used that contour function, I actually could hide either the mountains and the water or the moon. And then I ended up with, instead of just one image, I had 2 separate. So I could make that cut for the sun or the moon a different color cut of vinyl than I was doing for the mountains. So I used that contour function quite a bit, and it really worked out well. I also used the weld. The weld function I used when I wanted the machine to cut out the words Dillon Amphitheater. I wanted not only the letters to be connected, but I wanted those words to be curved on the back of the shirt. And I wanted the machine to cut that out as one image. If I hadn't have welded those letters and words together, Cricut would have cut out each individual letter separately, which would have been fine, but it would have meant that I would have had to line them up on the t-shirt in a curve freehand. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to make sure that the letter spacing and the words were exactly how I planned them out in the template. So by using that weld function, I was able to do that. Like I mentioned before, this was not my first time making t-shirts. So I had figured that planning out the design and then actually just getting everything heated and placed on the t-shirts was going to be what took the most time in this project. And I was wrong. Actually, what took the most time in this project was weeding out one of the brands of heat transfer vinyl, glow in the dark heat transfer vinyl that I bought. I got two different kinds. I bought one set that was like a variety pack of a bunch of different colors of glow in the dark, and the sheets were 12 by 12. The other one I got was a roll of white glow in the dark vinyl that when it glowed, it would be blue. And that was very purposeful. I wanted it to look like that. And that was the vinyl that was going to be used on the front of the t-shirt for the mountain scene and the water lines. And then the back of the t-shirt for the Dillon Amphitheater and the year. That vinyl ended up being extremely challenging for me to use. The amount of time that it took to weed out the words Dillon Amphitheater 2022 and then the mountain scene on the front was just at times unbearable. It did not cut well. It was a weeding process that really, really got frustrating at times. And during the project, I didn't think about going back and reading up on that vinyl. After finishing the project, I did, and I learned a few things that I'll share with you later. But anyway, just that weeding time was so frustrating. I think that probably added at least an hour or two to this project, which I was not anticipating. I definitely was learning as I went with that particular vinyl that there were specific ways that if I were to take the weeding tool and kind of drag them down right on the seam where the cut was, that it made the process go a little bit faster. But I definitely kept ending up with little pieces that I had to really work to pull apart. So one set of vinyl that I bought, the variety pack, weeded no problem, fine, just like a normal vinyl that you would be weeding. The one that I got that was the roll, that was that 5-foot long one, that was the one that really slowed the project down. So the other thing that I used in this project that really helped me once I did end up getting everything weeded, everything ready to go on the t-shirt was one of the t-shirt alignment guides. These are a great little tool too. You just put them right up at the neck of the t-shirt, depending what size t-shirt you have. And it just helps to make sure that you're keeping your design, in the middle and exactly how far down from the top of the t-shirt you want it to be. Because I was making 3 t-shirts, I really wanted to make sure that where the design started was going to be the same, whether it was a small, medium, or large t-shirt size. So that tool really helped me out. And overall, the t-shirts came out great. I was definitely wondering about the glow. So I did test out the glow in the dark vinyl a couple of times before putting it on the t-shirts, just to make sure I thought it was bright enough and I liked it. And both of these vinyls that I used did a great job. And really, once they were in either sunlight or regular inside light for only about 5-10 minutes, they would glow right up in the dark. I took them into the closet a couple of times, closed the doors just to make sure that I knew exactly what color it was going to turn. and that I knew that it was going to be a bright glow, which is exactly what I wanted. One of the other little tips that I did in this project was the variety pack had 4 sheets that were white. So when they were not glowing, not in the dark, they were white, but 2 of them were going to turn green when they were in the dark, and 2 of them were going to turn blue. So I went ahead and made sure I labeled them with sticky notes. I got them in the sunlight for about 10 minutes, took them back into the closet and made sure I knew which ones were turning blue and which ones were turning green. And then I put little sticky notes on there with blue and green. And that way, when I was creating and having Cricut cut that vinyl, I knew which one I was using. So that way I could save some time and I wouldn't have to go back and check it again right before I was putting it on the t-shirt. So that was really helpful as well. The t-shirts, we have actually attended the concerts and we wore the t-shirts and they were fun and they definitely showed their glow when things got dark, which was super fun. I think I enjoyed it more than either of my guys in my family, but that's okay. It was definitely a fun project, and I will be using glow in the dark heat transfer vinyl. Again, I think that you can use it for so many different things that you're making. And obviously Halloween would be a really fun time to use it for some stuff, but even on some different projects in different ways to add that little fun of having something glow in the dark when it gets dark out definitely was a fun factor for this project. Crafting keepers for this project, I would say number 1 would be that contour function. As I learn more and more about how to use Cricut Design Space and what I can do with different images, that contour function really is coming in handy. It's allowing me to make those images that are in one piece that you can't ungroup and can't separate. It allows me to change those into the image that I want by getting rid of certain cut lines and pieces of that image. So that contour function is definitely a keeper. I also think the weld function really was helpful in this project. This one keeps your letters and your words just right exactly where you want them and keeps them all together as one cut image. So that is something that, again, as I get more comfortable and used to using Cricut Design Space, I find myself using that function a lot. The third crafting keeper for this project is that I am just going to say there are tons of different kinds of vinyl out there. And I use 2 different kinds of glow in the dark vinyl. They both glow great. The function of them is exactly what I wanted, but my experience in weeding out the 2 different vinyls was very different. And one of them actually was quite frustrating. It took a really long time. So make sure as you go through and use different materials, I know I'm keeping a little list of which ones worked well, which ones didn't, because both of these got super high ratings on Amazon, lots of high ratings, but they didn't give me the experience that I was expecting based on just the star ratings. So that brings me into one of my tips. Read some of the reviews. Just because they've got 4 or 5 stars doesn't necessarily mean that what you're going to get is a 4 or 5 star product. Yes, this product glowed great, which is the purpose of it. But the frustration in actually doing the project and weeding it out made it not as enjoyable as I think it could have been. And when I did go back and read after I finished the project, there were quite a few people that in their ratings were talking about, that it glows great, but they had to change their cut setting to the glitter vinyl cut setting in order to make it an easier weed, which is exactly what I was struggling with. So if I would have thought to go back and check that in the middle of the project or before I even cut the vinyl, I probably would have had a very different experience and it wouldn't have taken me as long. So I don't know. I mean, a tip is read the reviews, read a couple. If there's like 3,000, 4 or 5 stars, then that's great. But you might gain more information when you're actually reading what people say about their experience. The other tip that I thought was really helpful that I shared earlier that I'll just share one more time is that when you have materials like this glow-in-the-dark vinyl that is white when it's daytime and then it's going to turn a different color in the dark, use your sticky notes, use them and label them, and that will save you time in the middle of the project or when you're putting it on your t-shirts so that you don't have to go back and check that it's going to glow blue or green or pink or whatever it is. Right in that moment, okay, I'm putting this one on and this is blue and that's what I want it to glow. So just label stuff with sticky notes. I always keep them right next to my little work area on my craft table for things like that. And so that brings me to my Satiscrafttion rating for this project. I am going to rate it with a 3. It was a fun project, but it was frustrating to weed that one vinyl out. That really kind of took it down a couple notches for me because it just took so much longer than it needed to. It just got frustrating. So that kind of brought it down a little bit. I've made t-shirts before, so it wasn't a new project. The glow in the dark factor was super cool. And I'm glad that I put that feature on the t-shirt. It made it fun. And the inspiration behind it, which is obviously the band and the venue, that was really fun to design something that I felt represented those two things. And of course, going to the concert with my husband and my son in the t-shirts was super fun. But in terms of the actual crafting experience, I will be making more t-shirts. I know I will. I will use different kinds of vinyl and things like that. So the experience wasn't anything too exciting or new, except for adding that different element of glow in the dark vinyl to the t-shirts. So that is it for my glow in the dark t-shirt project. And I would actually be interested to hear if anybody else has had different experiences with the weeding out different glow in the dark heat transfer vinyl. Is it just the cut? Is it, sometimes you have to run it through twice? I don't know. I've never done that. But after reading some reviews, I definitely saw that some people were doing 2 cuts. So is that something that you do? Do you do 2 cuts on certain vinyls to make sure that it is a easier weeding process? Let me know. Take care.
That's all for this episode of Weekend Crafting Adventures. Now go get that Cricut machine off the shelf and get crafty. For more information on this crafting project, interesting tips, tricks, and techniques, visit WCApodcast.com. Until next time when we embark on another adventure.